Hey guys, and welcome back to Mad About Skin. If you're new to our channel, welcome. Here at Mad About Skin, we're passionate about helping you to get the most out of your skincare. So if you haven't already, now's a fantastic time to click that link below, subscribe to the channel, ring that notification bell, and you won't miss out on any of our amazing future content. Now, in today's video, we're going to do another one of our ingredients quick guides. In this series, I take one ingredient commonly found in your skincare products and I tear it apart. I look at the pros, cons, the science behind it. We really do a deep dive into these ingredients and we work out whether there's a space for them in your skincare products or whether you just need to toss them out. So far we've looked at some fantastic ingredients. My favourite being bakuchiol, which is a plant-based alternative to retinol. I'll leave a link there if you want to check that video out. But we've covered loads and loads of different ingredients. So if you watch to the end, at the end of the video, there'll be a link to the playlist where you can catch up on any of the ones that you might have missed. Now, today's video, we are talking about the most contentious ingredient possibly in the history of skincare. I have never understood how something so natural, boring, basic can be this hotly contested and just diverge opinions so much, and that is coconut oil. Now, I know a lot of you are going to come for me in the comments below because we have some people, not necessarily on this channel, but just generally on the internet, we have like what I call the coconut warriors, the people who cannot see a single flaw in coconut oil and that it is the best and only ingredient that should ever go on your skin, and you can use it as a cleanser, as a moisturizer, as a serum. It is just the best thing ever. And you have the anti-grade, which are just like, if anything has even been near a coconut, it needs to be expunged from the earth and never go anywhere near your skin. I would like to take a non-dramatic, a middle-of-the-line approach where I'm going to look at the science behind it. We're just going to look at facts. We're going to get rid of all of the opinion and all of the hyperbole, and we're just going to look at the facts of this product. I'm going to talk you through some of the pros, and there are some of the cons, and there are some, and we're going to work out whether this is an ingredient which belongs in your skincare or whether you need to avoid it. Like I say, leave me a comment below if you are a coconut fanatic or a skincare purist that hates anything to do with coconut oil. Leave me a comment below because I do like to see other people's opinions, but I just want this to be a factual. I'm not going to be sharing my opinion on this. I'm going to be giving you the facts and the basis to inform you and let you make your own decision on this particular ingredient. So without further ado, let's get into it. Coconut oil. This is distilled either through cold pressing or through a heat treatment from the meat of mature coconuts. So you get unripe coconuts, which is generally where you get coconut water from. When they ripe, you can scrape out the white meat from inside it, distill that into coconut oil. It comes in many different forms. You can either get it in 100% pure virgin coconut oil, or you can get it as coconut oil derivatives, which can be a little bit confusing because they appear in a multitude of different names, which I will link in the description box below, so you can kind of hunt them out in your skincare and make sure that none of them are included in your skincare if you want to avoid them, or that you can include them in your skincare if it's something you want to add. Now, coconut oil exploded onto the skincare scene about 10 years ago and it has gone mad. Literally, you cannot move without seeing this on YouTube, on Instagram, in every product going. It's in cleansers, it's in lotions, it's in hydrators. It is just everywhere. You can get it for the hair, you can get it for the skin, for the body. You could even get coconut oil toothpaste and mouthwash. It is like baffling how this has become like a panacea and a cure-all for everything. So I'm going to strip it back. We're going to work out where it does have a place and where it doesn't, and kind of just break down some of these perceptions that people might have about the product. So what is coconut oil? We've talked about where it comes from, but it has a large molecule size. As we know from some of our exfoliating acids, if something has a large molecule size, it penetrates less deeply into the skin and slower into the skin. So generally, it has less of an impact and is a more gradual process. That has some benefits. It also has some negatives and some drawbacks that we'll talk about later. Coconut has in studies been proven to have some anti-microbial benefit, some antifungal benefit. So a lot of people look at these studies and say, well, fantastic with acne. If it can help control bacteria, fantastic for acne. That is reading too much into a scientific study. It does have, studies have shown, it does have antibacterial and antimicrobial properties and antifungal properties, which is one of the positives of it as a product. However, it has to be used in the right way to deliver that, and you have to consider some of the other characteristics of coconut oil and kind of see it as a whole rather than just picking some of the best bits about it. Studies have definitely shown that it is, as a hydrator, it is better performing than mineral oil. So a lot of people want to disassociate themselves from mineral oil. It has got some negative connotations. It tends to come from oil, which is not the most environmentally sustainable source, and also it can be quite irritating and quite clogging for the skin. So a lot of people look to coconut oil, which has an evidence base for being a better hydrator than mineral oil, as sort of a safe or a natural alternative to that, which I think is really where its popularity stemmed from as an alternative to mineral oil. So let's talk about the positives of coconut oil first. I always think 2020 has plenty of negatives going for it, so let's start with the positives and share the positive vibes. First of all, it will remove your makeup, your SPF, the dirt and the debris. It at room temperatures, when it hits the skin, it does turn into a pure oil, and it will be fantastic at breaking down all of the makeup, the SPF and the other dirt and debris that's on your skin. It will then take it out, wash it off once you wash it off your skin. And so as a cleanser, if you're just looking for a cleanser to remove product from the skin, it is a fantastic option. There are plenty of other oils that do exactly that, but as an oil, it does cleanse the skin quite deeply and provides a nice cleanse for the skin. There are some issues which I'll come on to later, but I think just in terms of removing the product, it will absolutely deliver that. Results from tests and studies done on coconut oil have shown it to be non-irritating and non-sensitizing. So if you're using virgin coconut oil, then you can be assured that it won't increase sensitivity and it won't trigger allergic reactions. Again, I would always caveat that with make sure you can be allergic to a single ingredient. So do make sure that you put it on the back of your neck, do a patch test for about 24 hours before you use it, just to make sure that you are not allergic to the product. But studies have shown it isn't a known irritant or something which increases sensitivity in the majority of people. So it's safe to use on the skin, which is absolutely fantastic. It also works fantastically as an emollient to soften the skin and to hydrate the skin. So on the body, if you were to apply it to the body, it will give you that soft baby-like skin which we crave. That's the emollient qualities that it has. And it will also be able to hydrate over a longer period of time because it does sink in more gradually because of that large molecule size. So sometimes when you feel like you put a moisturiser on your skin and within 30 seconds it's gone and you barely know you had it on there, coconut oil won't do that. It will absorb over a longer period of time, so it will really give you that emollient hydration over a sustained period throughout the day, which a lot of people love, and which is why I think a lot of people say it's a better moisturiser than a lot of the drugstore moisturisers available, which do tend to disappear and sink in after about 30 to 40 seconds. Again, just to be a little bit aware that because it doesn't sink in straight away, it can be a little bit difficult if you put clothes over it. Obviously it can transfer and leave stains, so that's something to bear in mind, but it does give a longer mechanism of action than a lot of moisturisers. Now, with the goods, always comes the bads, and unfortunately with coconut oil there are a lot of bads and negatives that come with using it, and I think this is where a lot of the coconut oil purists stop. They say all of the great things that we've already mentioned so far proves that coconut oil is wonderful, and let's just skip past all the bad things and let's just forget that they ever existed. And really we need to show a balanced view. So there are quite a few negatives to using coconut oil, which I'll summarise again at the end. So the first one is it's comedogenic. So as a molecule, it will clog your pores, it will sit in the pores, and it can increase the incidence of acne, breakouts and whiteheads on the skin. If you have oily or acneic skin, you really should avoid coconut oil completely because it is comedogenic, and I always recommend you look for non-comedogenic alternatives when you're looking for your cleansers and for your moisturisers. One of the other things it tends to do is it tends to pool and congregate around the follicle and around the pore in the skin, which can then react with the sebum that's naturally produced with the skin and create like an inflammatory reaction which mimics acne, so it can make the area look redder and more inflamed, so sort of exacerbate the look of the acne which is already present and the breakouts which are already present in the skin. That's a firm no-no. For anyone like me who has oily skin, this is just like ringing alarm bells. And if you use, and there are some really high viewed videos on YouTube that say coconut oil cured my acne, coconut oil for acne and all of this, no, absolutely not. Whether they just got lucky or whether they're downright lying, this will not cure your acne and will make it worse. It's a comedogenic product. It will work differently on different skin, you know, even within the oily category, different skin reacts differently to products, but on the whole, coconut oil should be avoided for people with oily skin because it is comedogenic, it will clog your pores, and it will create an inflammatory reaction which can mimic the look of already inflamed acne and breakouts. Just a nightmare. That's why I've never used it on my face and I never will. Now we're looking at the pH of the product. So I always think a lot of people forget the pH in skincare can be quite important. So when we talk about pH neutral, it's on a scale. So you go from 1 through to 14. Pure water is neutral at 7, or tends to be around 7 on the pH scale. Anything lower than 7, so 1 through 6 is acidic, anything higher is alkaline. Our skin is around the 5, so it's slightly, though not severely, acidic. It's designed to be that way to keep the good bacteria prevalent and the bad bacteria, which tend to like alkaline skin types, lower. So you don't really want to mess with that acid mantle. You don't want to really upset the acidity of the skin. Coconut oil tends to be around the 7 to 8 on the pH, so it's alkaline. So you use it as a cleanser and then as a moisturizer, and it's going to upset the balance of your skin's acidity quite considerably. Studies have shown it impacts the acidity for about 90 minutes after you've used the product. That's a long time for the skin to be imbalanced. That allows for the proliferation of bad bacteria. It can also, studies have also shown that it can exacerbate things like some sort of dermatitis and some eczemas. Really just not the sort of pH that you want to be using in your skincare on a daily and regular basis. The odd treatment, and on the body, I think you can be a bit more forgiving. I think certainly on the face, this isn't a product you should be using every single day, and I would really limit the amount of applications you use. If you do like to use coconut oil, I'm not going to say don't use it, but I do think limit the amount of applications that you make to it. Also, it's quite occlusive. Well, it's not quite occlusive, it's hella occlusive. So what that means is, because of its large molecule size, it doesn't absorb into the skin, which means it sits on the top of the skin. On your body, that's less of an issue, but on your face, what that does, it creates something we call a greenhouse effect. So you've got this layer of oil sitting on top of the skin, so all the heat which goes from your body and is released through the pores actually gets trapped and then goes back in, which creates sort of a mini heat trap on the skin. Of course, where you have excess heat, that can then increase the proliferation of bacteria. It can also just create that redness and that flushing which we often see because the skin is naturally warmer than it otherwise should be, and some of the functions of the pores can't work properly. That's not really a good thing. This is why I always say against mineral oil and Vaseline, for the same reason. Because it sits on the skin, doesn't absorb properly, it leaves a film which allows the skin to heat up and things to happen between those two layers that you really just don't want to happen. So that's something you really consider, particularly again if you have rosacea, you have acne, you have anything that leads to redness in the skin, because this can really exacerbate that flushing and that redness. Virgin coconut oil, we've already said, is non-irritating and isn't proven to create sensitivity in the long run. So studies have shown that, that's beyond doubt. However, derivatives of coconut oil are very different, and this is where it can get a little bit confusing to know what you're using and what you're not. If you take a derivative of coconut oil, and I'll leave the links to all the names that appear down below because there's so many of them, they are, in the whole, irritating and sensitizing. So they can increase the sensitivity in people who already have sensitive skin, or it can trigger sensitivity in people that do not. They can also be quite irritating, not for everybody, but they have a higher likelihood of irritation than virgin coconut oil. Because they're quite hard to sell and they don't really have names that associate them with coconut, often companies will put on the front of their products coconut oil because that sells. People love it, it's marketing. But actually it's not coconut oil, it's not 100% virgin coconut oil, it's a derivative. So you're buying what you think is virgin coconut oil, but you're actually, when you look at the ingredients, getting a derivative which could lead to sensitivity and irritation down the line. That's something to bear in mind, and another reason I tend to avoid it, because it's quite hard to know, if you're not fully trained on all the various names of the derivatives, exactly what you're buying. And so this is another reason I tend to give it a firm pass. Finally, it is antifungal in some respects, but it also can support the proliferation of certain yeasts, which like an oil environment. So if you have yeast on the skin, we all do, it naturally occurs on our skin and has some benefits but also some drawbacks. Certain yeasts love an oily environment and feed off the oil, which is particularly the case with coconut oil, so it's really not suitable for anyone who has fungal acne or fungal skin complaints. It's just something you need to avoid. I'm sure your dermatologist, GP, or whoever's identified that you have fungal acne or other skin indications will have told you this already, but it's really not something that you should be using, even on your hair if it comes into contact with the skin. If you have any fungal issues, specifically fungal acne, this is just a firm pass. So overall, that's the facts. I'm going to leave you to make up your own mind on whether you want to continue to use coconut oil or increase it or use it for the first time in your skincare routine. Overall, for oily skin, I just beg you to go nowhere near coconut oil. It can increase fungal acne, it can create the greenhouse effect, which exacerbates the redness that's already in the skin. It's comedogenic, it'll clog your pores, and it's just a firm pass for anyone who has oily or oily combination skin. If you're super dry, and I do know quite a few celebrities who have dry skin that swear by coconut oil, I think it's more forgiving and it's more applicable to the drier skin types, where you can get a nice emollient, a nice moisturizing, a softening of the skin, which is really hard to find with a lot of moisturizers. So it could be something that you reach for. I would just bear in mind that you're looking at the ingredients and using a virgin coconut oil, not any of the derivatives which find their way into skincare, because they're likely to be irritating and sensitive, especially if you've got dry skin. Chances are you're probably a little bit sensitive anyway. don't need to add derivatives in there to increase that. So make sure it's virgin coconut oil you're using. Limit the amount that you're using because you don't want to disturb the pH of the skin too much. So on the body, I think you could be more forgiving, but on the face, don't use it as a cleanser and a moisturizer, for example. Use a pH appropriate cleanser and then maybe use it as a moisturizer as your last step. Just limit the amount that you're using. But I do think there is a place in skincare for the dry skinned where coconut oil can be applicable. One thing I would also just call out, if you are looking for environmental sustainability and really environmental concerns are something which are high on your list when you're looking to make a purchasing decision. Obviously, coconuts tend to be grown and farmed in certain countries where they have limited workers' rights, or there's some issues around some of the ethics behind it. So just be really careful about which brands you're buying from. Make sure that it's sustainably sourced. Make sure that there is some sort of guarantee or assurance that the people who are picking, harvesting and using the coconut are being treated well and paid a fair price, because it's one of those ingredients which is quite easy to exploit, and a lot of companies do. So just read up a little bit before you choose to buy a product to make sure that there is some element of sustainability in there, if that's something that you're concerned with when you're making a purchasing decision. Anyway, guys, that's a quick guide. Hopefully I've kept it under to about 10 minutes, but check the timestamp to see if I'm a liar. Hopefully you found this useful. I'd love to know what your take on coconut oil is. Leave me a comment below. Do you use it? Do you avoid it? Read me to filth. I don't mind. I'm happy to take on your feedback. Hopefully, guys, this has just been a non-dramatic look at the science and behind the ingredients so you can make up your own decisions. If you like this sort of video, let me know what other ingredients you want me to cover. Give this video a big thumbs up, and wherever you are in the world, I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.